Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev. In this video, we are going to create the Pixel Plane game in Unity. So it's another hyper casual game, and the assets for the game I have created it myself. So you can download it and follow along. So let's start creating the game. So for now, I've just opened an empty Unity project and added the constant script. Now let's create a new scene. And let's not have it, don't save. And let's set the main color camera to white, and we'll save this scene in the scenes folder as the main menu. And similarly, we'll create another scene, and let's delete the sample scene first. And for this scene, we are going to save it as gameplay. And now let's open our main menu scene. So in our main menu scene, we'll first add the scene to the build. So inside settings, we'll do add open scenes to the build. Now next we go inside our gameplay. I think Unity capture is capture cursor. Okay, so it's on. Oh no. Should be working. Now let's set this scenes ratio. So let's set the portrait high, and let's also make this color white. So this is our basic scene setup, and similarly we are going to add our gameplay scene to the build. So we'll go inside build settings and we'll do add open scene. So whenever we change the scene, we are able to see it. Now in our main menu, let's first add a text. So let's add a UI text mesh pro. So it will install the text mesh pro essentials, and after that we should be able to use the text. So the first text we are going to use is our title text. So let's call it title, and let's make it black and position it at 00 and 1024 by 256, centered and pixel plane. And we'll set the size to 160 and let's make it bold. And now let's add our resources, so which are the sprites and all our fonts. So we have gone into resources and that's going to one more folder for our prefabs. Now inside our resources, I'm going to bring all the resources, which are the images, the fonts, and finally our so we have our font. Now we'll need to create this. Where is it? Our font. Will need to create a font asset. So let's go inside Unity window, and we'll use text mesh, and we'll go in the font asset creator, which is this one. So inside our source font file, we'll add our bold, and it's going to be 2K size, nothing else is needed. Then we'll do generate font alias and we'll do save. And inside our save, we are going to save as an SDF, and we'll delete the rest of the two fonts. So this is our font, and if we change our font style to match our pixeloid, it's going to look like this. Now 1000 by 256 and 128. Let's resize it. So it's going to be 128, and we are also going to position in the upwards 768. and we are going to set its color to 196, 100 and 22, or maybe 62. So it's going to match the color what we want, and the title is fixed. Now let's set up our canvas first. So instead of screen space overlay, we are going to set it to screen space camera. Add our main camera, and we are going to scale with screen size, so 1080 by 1920, and match width or height, and we are going to set it to 0.5. So it's going to equally match width and height. Now we have our title, and let's set our main camera size to 9.6. Now let's add a quad, so it's going to act as a background, and let's go into 3D, and we are going to add a quad to the scene. So as you can see, it's pretty much bigger right now, 19.6, 19.6 and 19.6. So if we go inside our view, it's going to fit the whole screen, and let's rename this as BG. Now for the material, we are going to create a material out of our that sprite, and it's going to be a texture type material. So let's create a material, and we are going to rename it as m_bg. So M stands for the material, and it's instead of standard, we are going to set it as unlit texture, and for the texture we are going to select our BG texture. And for the tiling, let's set it to 2, so it's going to expand it. And inside our materials panel, instead of the default material, we are going to use our BG material. Now as you can see, it's stretched, so for that we need to set the wrap mode to repeat, and filter mode I don't think it will be needed. So and let's set apply, so it's going to push everything to the center. And mm, 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 repeat offset, x offset, let's set it to where is our material. So for the offset x, let's set it to 1, or maybe 50. I don't think it will matter, but inside our material we will yep, that's our background. Now our background is pretty much higher, so we'll push it backwards. So let's push it at 10. And if we go inside our 3D view, that's where it's going to be. And similarly, inside our canvas, plane distance, if we set it at 10, it's going to be in front of our screen, which is going to be at the 0th coordinate. The camera is at the -10th coordinate, so the front 10 is going to be here. And now let's set it up as 2D. So that's our basic title. Now let's add the rest of the buttons, and let's also add a game manager first. And it's going to not the game manager, main menu manager, main menu manager. So it's going to have a main menu manager script, which we are going to attach it afterwards. So we have our title. Now inside our UI, let's add our start button. So let's create inside our canvas, let's create a UI, and let's add a button text mesh pro, and we are going to call it as the start. And for the position, it's going to be a little bit higher. For the size, it's going to be 896 by 512. And for the sprite, we are going to use our box sprite, and it's too much. So let's set it to point filter. So we are going to see it as like this. And similarly, we'll also need our block and our planes to be point. So they don't like, as you can see, if we set it to bilinear, it's going to blur it out. And inside our text, let's make it bold, let's make it 160, and let's set the text to be our this one. And similarly we are going to call play. So that should be, yep, that's it. Now for the button, let's set the transition to none, and we'll need a main menu manager script. So let's create the script first. So there are going to be two managers, game manager, and as you can see the error is uh, I can't see the error. Hmm. Don't know. I think I have not rescaled it, so any error you won't be able to see. But if I go inside the console, as you can see, there's the character used is that underline problem is going to show up. Now, for that, what we are going to do is we are going to edit into the project settings. And when we go inside our TextMesh Pro settings, we are going to disable the warnings, which will fix it up. Reload. See, as you can see, there is this error, which will disable the warnings and it will be fine. And let's close the tab, font asset creator. Let's close the tab. And as you can see, we have our start button. Now, after our start button, we are going to add our quit button. So it's similarly quit, and instead of start we are going to call it quit, and the position it's going to be -704, and the width and the height is going to be different. And for the text, uh, let's set it to black, and similarly it's going to be 160, and let's set the color to black, and let's set the font size to 128. So that's how our quit text is going to look, and it's already positioned according to the center. Now after our quit text, we are going to have one more button. So let's duplicate this quit button, and this one is going to be our sound button, and inside our sound button it's going to position at 288 and -416. And similarly we'll rescale it accordingly, 256 by 256, and instead of having a text it's going to have an image. So let's have a UI and let's add an image, and for the image, instead of having that, we are going to add our sound image. And similarly for the color, we are this one won't need it. For the sound color, we are going to have a tint. Let's set it to this blue color. So if it is on, then it's going to show this color, and if it is off, it's going to show the white color. Now after having that, there's going to be one more, and we'll add an image for it, and it's going to be our score panel, or let's just call it score panel, and it's positioned as -192 and -416. And similarly for the image, we are going to use box. The height is going to be 256, but the width we are going to set it to 5 and 2. So that's where our score is going to be, and inside that we are going to add two texts, and the first one is going to say last, and and let's have a last score of 8. And for the width and uh, for the height, we are going to set the height to 100. Position is going to be 48, and base 0, bold 64, black, and the font is going to be this one, positioned at the center, and it should be fine. Now this one's for the last, and we'll duplicate the last, and this one is going to be for the best. And similarly, instead of last is going to call best, and let's add one to the and we'll have it at negative 48. So this is going to be our basic start scene, and we are also going to have one more image. So this image is going to be, we have scale, and it's going to be the simple plane, and we'll attach our plane to it. So let's have it at 0. The size is going to be 192 by 192, and position for the x and the y, it's going to be at 448. And for the x position, let's set it up later. So we have our plane. Now there is not much going on, so we'll add a couple of animations. So let's create a folder to store all the animations. So the first one is going to be the animators, and inside our resources we have the material, the scenes. I don't think we'll need to rename it, but we'll do it afterwards. Yeah, we won't need to rename it. So let's first add the animator controller for our BG. So it's going to be animator controller for the main scene, and it's going to be for the BG. Now let's go inside our background, and we are going to add an animator to our background. And for the animator controller, we are going to use BG, and let's open it up. And we'll also need to open the animation window, so which is going to be, I'm going to dock it around here, or maybe, why is it showing the whole screen? So let me dock it around here. Yeah, won't matter. So let's go inside our animation, and if we hit the BG, we are able to create an animation. So it's going to be, animation an, and it's going to be for the main, and the BG, and the animation name is going to be the default. So let's hit save, and we have default animation. Let's set the plane size to 12, and let's add a property which is going to be in the mesh renderer, and it's going to be inside ST. Now, so we should have this so as you can see, it's going to transition from 0 to 1, and then 1 to 2. Now for instead of clamped auto, we are going to, let's go inside the curves and let's see how it is looking. So it's pretty much not bad, but we need to have auto and auto. And similarly, if we set it to auto, it's going to go smoothly. So let's hit play, and as you can see, It is going in the upward direction, and we need to change in the different direction. So let's stop it, and let's go inside our dope sheet, and instead of 1 we'll add -1, and here instead of 2 we'll add -2. So, and let's set everything up, and we are going to increase it to 4 seconds. Now let's hit play, so you should be able to see the background moving in the upward direction, and everything's working pretty much fine. I don't know why you are not able to see the background moving, but it is moving. Maybe I don't know, when I am switching to it, there's, so maybe you are able to see, maybe not. I can't check it inside. So let's hit play, and the anchor is moving, but our background I am not able to see inside the Streamlabs. So it is moving. So what we did is we created two keys for it, and here we set it to 0, here we set it to -1, and the last we set it to -2. So that's for our background animation. Now we are also going to add an animation for the plane. So let's duplicate both this, and for our animation, let's rename main, and this one is for our plane. And similarly, if we set the AN default one, we should be rename it to plane. And if we go inside our plane and add an animator component, set the main plane, and we are going to open our main plane. So we'll add our main plane animation, and we are going to change our plane animation. So remove properties, and if we click our plane, we should be able to add different properties depending on it. So the first property we are going to add is the rect transform, which is the pivot. And inside our pivot, not the pivot, let's remove this property, and we are going to position anchored position, and let's go inside our scene. So for the anchored position, we have the X position at 0, the sample size is already at 2. So it's going to be a 4-second animation. Let's see where -5 and 2, or maybe +5 and 2, -1 to 8. So it's going to be at 384, and at the end of 1 second it's going to be at 0, and at the end of 2 second it's going to be at -384. And after that, similarly, at the end of 3 second it's going to be at 0, and finally at the end of 4 second it's going to be at -384. So if we hit play, we should be able to see it moving in all the directions. Now it's hmm, auto, and let's see how the curves are set. So auto, auto, auto. So instead of auto, let's set it to free smooth. And yep, free smooth also doesn't work. Let's set it to clamped auto. And instead of clamped auto, what else should we do? Flat? I think flat. No, we don't need flat. Mm, 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 mm. So. So it's at 0, then we are going at negative 192, 0. Okay, so we need it to be at positive 384. So now everything should be working fine, and if we go inside our curves, so let's free smooth. So it's almost as we want. And if we hit play, we are able to see it moving. The sprite is not re-rendering here. I don't know what is happening. We'll check it afterwards. So let's hit pause and we'll need to add our sprite. So as you can see at the 0th position, and we'll need it here. So the sprite at the 0th position, let's go inside our scenes and our resources, and let's have our plane 1 here. So if we hit play, we are able to see the plane 1. Now when it goes from 0 to 12, the next one it's going to be the plane 2, and then it's going to be plane 3, and finally it's going to be plane 4. Now let's hit play, and when it hits 0 we are able to see. Mm, 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 mm. How did we duplicate it? I forgot. Control D. So let's do a Control C and here Control V. And if we push it here, we should be able to see the transition. So uh, let's hit pause. Let's go to 0. And for this one, we are going to change it, set it to here, and rescale it to 2 seconds. So now we should, yeah, we are able to see it. Now that's for the 2 seconds. Now for the next 2 seconds, we are going to need it around here. So let's copy it, and similarly it's going to be inside here, and let's paste it here and rescale it to the 4th second. So if we hit play, it is changing. Now the next thing we need to change is the scale. So let's add a property rect transform and the scale property. And for now, if we go inside our 0 and the 1 second, nothing happens, but After 1 second, we'll need to set the X scale to -1, and for the flat. No free smoothing. We'll need to set it to how it is broken. Uh, 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 uh. So let's go inside X scale. Let's focus it around here. And yeah. Now let's hit play. As you can see, it is working pretty much fine. And I don't know how it is called, so it is free smooth. And let's go inside our 2, so it doesn't matter. And again, it's going to be 1 here. And if we go inside our curves, as you can see, everything's perfectly set up. Now if we hit play, we should be able to see the animation working fine, and it's automatically working. And at the 0th index, it is at positive 384. And now let's hit play and let's see how it is working. It's not getting recorded, or maybe it is, or maybe not. So if it is not getting recorded, so I don't know what's happening. But in my screen, I'm able to see the background moving, and the plane is also moving. So that was for the UI and the animations. Now we'll need to create the yeah, it should be showing. There should not be any problems. So after creating the UI and the animations, let's add the functionalities to it. And we won't need the animation and the animator window again. And let's go inside our scene and let's add our main menu manager to our main menu manager. So we'll need to create it, and it's going to be main menu manager, and we'll attach our main menu manager to it. And let's go inside our main menu manager inside the scripting. So let's open the main menu manager and we'll go inside Visual Studio. So inside the main menu manager, we are going to have the functions for the play button. And when we click the sound button, and at the start of the, when it is loaded, we are going to show the last score and the next score. So it's recording. We are inside our script, and let's delete everything first, and let's also delete using Unity Engine. So we are going to use Unity Engine.ui, and we are also going to use the TM Pro. Now inside our main menu manager, we are going to have a serialized field, and first one is going to be the TM Pro text, and it's going to be the last score text and the high score text. And after that, we are going to have a serialized field for our sound button, and private color, and we are going to have the two colors, which is the on sound color and the off sound color. Now after that, let's go inside awake and we are going to set the text. So the first one is the last core text or text, and it's going to be, first we'll add the last, and after that we are going to get the score. So player prefs dot has key, and to store our key names I'm just going to copy from our constants. So let's go inside constants and let's delete the constants. So these are the constants used. So the last score, the best score, the setting sound, and for the tags we have the respawn and the finish. Now if it has the key of constants dot data dot, the first we are going to use for the last score, then we'll get the integer. So we'll get that integer. So has key, then we'll get the player prefs dot get int, and we are going to get our constants dot data dot last score, else it's going to be set as 0, and we'll do dot to string. And similarly we'll copy our last score text, and instead of last we are going to call best, and instead of last score text we'll call it as high score text, and instead of last score we'll just call it as best score. So this both should set up our score. And now let's add a color to our game manager, main menu manager. So let's first get our sound, which is going to be player prefs dot has key, and if it has the key of constants dot data dot setting sound, then we'll get the player prefs dot get int, and similarly it's going to be constants dot data dot setting sound, as it's going to be 1, means it is on. And after that we are going to check if it is equal to 1, so the sound is true. And similarly we are going to set the sound button dot color is going to be sound, and if the sound is on then we are going to set it to on sound color as off sound color. And let's add the public void gameplay, and inside our gameplay we are going to unity engine dot scene management, unity engine dot scene management dot scene manager dot load scene, and we are going to load the gameplay scene. And similarly inside our public void game quit, we'll just call application dot quit, and if we are inside our unity editor, then we'll do unity editor dot editor application dot displaying to false. So that was for the game quit, and next we are going to set for the sound button toggle sound, And for the sound, what we'll do is let's first get the sound. And after getting the sound, if it is 0, player prefs dot getInt constants dot data dot settings dot sound. If it is 0, then it means that sound is off. Then we'll do player prefs dot setInt, and it's going to be constants dot data dot setting sound. So if it was 0, then it means it is off. So let's do sound. And if it was off, then we need to set it to on, else we set it to off. So this should work. And similarly, we'll do sound button dot color, and it's going to be sound, and we switched. It means it was off and we clicked it. So we are going to do the on sound color, as we are going to do the off sound color. It should be fine. So that was it for our scripts. Now, hmm, hmm. So let's see. First, we check if it has the key. If it doesn't, then we check set it to 1. 1 means the sound is on. And if it is equal to 1, that means the sound is on, then it is true. And if the sound is on, then we'll check the on. And here we are checking if it is 0. So if it is 0, that means it was off, then we'll set it to on. Now it is on. That means the sound was off. I think it's working pretty much fine. So let's go inside our Unity and we'll add functions to each of our objects. So let's go inside start and let's add our main menu manager, and it's going to be the gameplay function. Similarly, quit. Let's add the main menu manager, and it's going to be the game click function, game quit function. And similarly, inside our sound, let's add the game manager. It's going to be the toggle sound function. Now, inside our main menu manager, we need to have our last score text, which is going to be inside our score panel, the high score text, which is the best, the sound image, which is going to be inside our sound, and our on sound color is similar to this, and our off sound color, it's going to be pure white, and it should have the maximum transparency. And let's hit play. And as you can see, we are able to have the sound, and there was also some value in the player pref, so it's getting called, and we are able to go inside our main menu scene, and we'll also need to check if we can quit. So the game is finishing, I mean the main menu setup is done, and the sound is also working fine, and you should be able to see the animations working. And we are not added the music right now, but we'll do it at the end. It's not much, it's just one script, and it's going to call the audio managers. Now that was for the main menu. It took pretty much longer because there was some animations and we needed to debug a bit. Now let's go inside our gameplay scene. So inside our gameplay scene, let's first add a text, which is going to be Text Mesh Pro, and it's going to be score. And let's set up our canvas first. So instead of screen space overlay, we'll set it to screen space camera, plane distance to 10, scale with screen size, 1080 by 1920, 0.5, and we'll need to add our BG. And for the main camera, let's set its size a little bit higher. So it's similarly going to be 9.6. We added the score, so should we? Yeah. Let's also add the end panel. So it's going to be pretty much easier for the score. It's going to be from the top 0 negative 128, and for the size is going to be 1024 by 256, and for the text let's have it as 0 pixeloid. For the color let's have it black for now, and let's have it centered. And for the size we are going to use 160, 198, 78, and 53. So it's going to look pretty much better than what it was. Now let's create an empty, and we'll call it end panel, and it's going to stretch the whole screen, so there's going to be nothing much. Now we will also need to add our background, so we are just going to copy from our main menu. So let's copy and we'll paste it inside our main menu. So paste. So that's how it's going to look, and it's also spanning the whole screen, so we won't need to do much. So 1 1 1 2 0 2. I mean, everything's looking pretty much fine, doesn't matter. Material. So we have our background material. Now let's set up our end panel first. So let's add an image, and it's going to be BG 832 by 640 box 1. Mm, 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 mm. And after that, we are going to add a couple of texts. So let's add a UI text mesh pro game over text 1024 by 128, positioned in the center, bold 80, 198, 78, 53. And for the text we are going to use a normal text, and it's going to say game over. And there's going to be a problem for the exclamation mark, so let's just remove the exclamation mark. We'll need it, and it's going to be positioned at 160. And we'll also need to duplicate, let's just add text mesh pro, and it's going to be for the best. Let's copy component and we are going to paste component values. Let's also do it here, copy component. Uh, let's remove the game over. And let's resize it 768. Position 0096 112, and it's going to be for our score and should be fine. And instead of score, let's call it end score, and let's duplicate the end score. High score negative 160, size is going to be 80, and we don't have anything. Click to collapse, click to collapse. Instead of score, it's just going to call best. So that was for our best. Next, we are going to add a button. So let's add a UI and let's add a button text mesh pro, and it's going to be for the go to menu button, and position is going to be upwards and size is going to be 768 by 160. For the sprite, we'll use our box sprite. Color tint, let set it to none, and we are going to set our box. So play again and 96. So inside the text, it's just going to call menu, bold 96, and the color we are going to use is over this color. And the text, we are already set up the text, and let's duplicate the menu with invert, and it's going to be for the restart. And for the text, we are just going to call play again. Mm, 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 mm. So that was for the restart. And next, we'll need the game manager. And let's hide the end panel because it's not going to show up at the start. We'll need the player first. So that was around 10 minutes. So it was faster. We have already created the background and animation, so it didn't take much time. Now let's add our player to the scene. So before that, let's go inside our resources and let's set up our sizes. So it's going to be 24 pixel size. This one's going to be 64 by 32, 64 size. And mesh type doesn't need to be full rect. Wrap mode is going to be repeat, and extrude edges, nothing else is going to be needed. So the first we are going to add is our player, and we'll rename it as player. And for our player, it's going to position at +5. It's going to have a circle collider 2D, which has a radius of zero point 0.5, and a rigid body 2D, which has a gravity scale of 0. And we'll also need have it attached a player script. So let's create all the scripts. And we'll also need a follow player script. So the follow player script is going to attach to our background and the camera because they need to follow the player. And our players is going to have the script for the movement and the input. And the game manager, it will handle the button functions and the spawning and also maybe a little bit of sound. So let's go, let's see what we need to do. We need to have our player moving. Before that, let's hit play and let's see if our background is working. So our background is working pretty much fine. The player is not moving anywhere else and there is not much problem. So let's go inside scripting and let's add movement for the player and the camera follows. So let's go inside Visual Studio. Hmm, hmm, hmm. The constants is done. So let's go inside the follow player and let's first delete everything. And we are going to have a serialized field, private transform, and inside our main menu manager, we only need the using Unity engine. Private transform, and it's going to be our player transform. And after that, we have private vector 3 start pose, offset. And inside our start, what we are going to do is calculate the offset. Offset is going to be transform dot position minus player transform dot position. And inside our fixed update function, we'll first get the current, and we need to set the current dot y is going to be player transform dot position dot y plus offset dot y. And transform dot position is going to be the current. So that should wait our player follow. Now let's go inside our player. So for our player, we'll need a serialized field and let's set a private float, and it's going to be for max y speed and the max x speed and the acceleration, and finally is going to be the x bounce. And after that we'll have a serialized field, private list of sprite, and we'll call it planes. Audio clip, and and the current X speed. Then the private pool has been finished, and private sprite render. Now inside our start function, we'll set the current Y speed to be the max Y speed, and the current X speed is going to be 0f. As game finished is going to be false, and SR is going to be get component, the sprite render component, and private float will also need a horizontal input, and inside our update the horizontal input is going to be input dot get axis, and after getting our horizontal axis we are going to update our player's position inside the fixed update. So let's go inside our fixed update, and if the game is finished then we'll just return. Else we'll first check if method.abs of horizontal input is greater than 0.05f. So if it is greater than 0.05f, then we'll first increase the current speed. So it's going to be horizontal input into acceleration and into time dot fixed delta time. And after that, if current x speed is greater than max x speed, then we'll set the current x speed is equals to max x speed, and if the current x speed is less than the negative max x speed, then we'll set the current x speed to negative max x speed. So it will limit our maximum speed. Now after that, we'll set the current y speed to be the max y speed minus current x speed. So it's going to be, as you can see, and let's get the offset, and the offset is going to be new current x speed, current y speed negative, and 0. And after that we'll set the transform dot position plus is equals to time dot fixed delta time, and we'll multiply by the offset. And similarly we'll check if let's set v3 temp is going to be transform dot position if temp dot x is greater than bounds x, or temp dot x is less than negative bounds x, then temp dot x is equals to negative temp dot x, and we'll set the transform dot position to temp. Now let's go inside Unity and let's see if our player has everything working So let's add our player script. Uh, 8, 8, 80, and 5 planes. I don't think it will be needed right now, but let's add our all the 4 planes. So let's go inside our resources. So the first plane is at the 0, 3, 2, 1, and the coin in the explosion clip, and our main camera and our background both are going to have our follow player script with our player as a transform. So now let's hit play and let's see if it is working. And okay, so everything's fine. And let's hit play. So let's see. Hmm, our player is not moving. So our player is not moving. Why is it not moving? If the game has finished, has game finished is false. If the game has not finished. Okay, so we just forgot to add the not to the game finished. So let's hit play. And now again our player is still not moving. Max X speed, max Y speed. What's its problem? Horizontal input. Input dot get axis HORIZONTL. Hmm. We have attached the player script, the circle collider. Follow player should be working. So the player is not working. Fixed update. If the game has finished, then we'll return. Okay, so it was fine. Transform dot position plus is equals to time dot fixed delta time. Should be working. I don't know why it isn't. Let's hit play. Okay, so now the player position is changing, and our main camera, and where is our main camera? Our main camera and our background are both following the player, so you are not able to see it, but the player is moving and it's not much jittery, so it won't matter. Now let's pause. I don't know why it wasn't working, but it got fixed automatically. So now we have our player. The obstacles are moving perfectly fine. There are no obstacles. The player is moving perfectly fine. Now we need to add some obstacles to the scene. So let's add a block first. And it's looking pretty much not looking bad enough. So we are going to set the draw mode to sliced and we are going to make it 10.8 by 0.5. And we'll also attach a box collider 2D, which is going to be similar to 10.8 by 0.5, and we are going to tag as the finish, and we'll save this block as a prefab. And let's delete this and let's duplicate this block, and we are going to rename it to spawner, and we'll remove the component and we'll set it to respawn. So If we go inside our respawn, it's going to be like this, and for the block it's going to be similar. So these are going to be the default parts for our obstacles. Now let's set up our obstacles first. So let's create an empty and we'll call it obstacle and a slash 1. Let's reset the transform and we'll save it as a prefab. Now let's go into the prefab and we are going to add 2 blocks to the scene, and let's change the full rect. We need to set the sprite mode to full rect, and let's set apply. And for the first block, capture cursor. So capture cursor is on, there's not any problem. So for the first block, it's going to be sized 5.4 minus 1, so which is 4.4. And similarly, this one is going to be 4.4, and the position is going to be negative 3.2. So this is our first block. Similarly, this one is going to be at positive 3.4, 4.4, and 4.4. So if we place this obstacle in our scene, so which is going to be inside our this, it's going to have a gap at the center. Now I think we are going to have a couple of obstacles in the scene, so let's place it, and it's going to be -5, -5, -5, and -5. So we just added a couple of obstacles, and inside our obstacle 1 we also need to add our spawner. So, and both of them needs to be trigger. It has the respawn and the finish tags. So that is our first obstacle. Now let's create the rest of the obstacles. So duplicate the obstacle 1 and we'll rename this to obstacle 2. Now let's open the obstacle 2, and it's going to be positioned at -5.2 +2, not +2, -4. And again it's going to be -2. And similarly for the block 1 we are going to position it at it at +2 and 6.4. So this one is going to be a second obstacle, and let's duplicate our obstacle 1, and this one's going to be our obstacle 3, and let's go inside obstacle 3, and similarly for the block we are going to position it at -3.2. So it was at -5.2, where the obstacle 3 we are going to position at -2.2, and this one's going to be 6.4 and 6.4, And similarly for the block one, it's going to be at 4.2 and 2.4 and 2.4. So this should be our third obstacle. We have all three of our obstacles. So let's add our third obstacle, and for now let's hide our obstacle one. So our third obstacle is also perfectly fine. And our second obstacle is not fine. We need to change our obstacle 2, which has the block at negative 5.2, 2.4. And our block one's at 2.2. Okay, so here was the problem. 2.2, 6.4. Now our obstacle 2 should also be fine. Again, there's positioning negative 5.2. Now let's put obstacle 2 again. Now it is fine. So this is the obstacle 2, and this one is our obstacle 3. Now let's create the last two obstacles. So similarly, we'll duplicate the obstacle 1. We'll rename it to obstacle 4. And it's just going to have our one block, and it's going to have negative 1.2, and it's going to have a size of 8.4. And if we duplicate our obstacle 4, let's rename it to obstacle 5. And instead of negative 1.2, it's going to be positioned at positive 1.2. Now if we put obstacle 4, it's going to be this. And if we put obstacle 5, it's going to be at the backward direction. So these are all the obstacles. And let's delete the obstacle one, and we'll add the obstacle one again. No rides, and we'll add our obstacle here. So these are all the 5 of the obstacles. 6, and we have their tags. Now let's hit play, and we should be able to move our player, and we need to have our player. The game should finish when it collides with the obstacles. So let's code it up in our Visual Studio, and let's add our player. So let's see from the start. So the follow player is working, and we need to go inside our game manager, and we need to add all the functionalities, generic and using TM Pro. So let's go inside our player first. Main menu manager is finished. Now inside our player, let's also have the image working on. So let's do float current image is going to be current x speed, and we'll divide by max x speed, and we'll multiply by the planes dot count minus 1f, and int image index, And the image index is going to be casted to an integer, and it's going to be mathf dot floor, and it's going to be for the mathf dot apps of the current image, and we'll set the sr dot sprite is going to be planes for the image index, and sr dot flipx is going to be current image is greater than 0f. Oh, okay, less than 0f. If it is greater, it is fine. And after that, let's add on trigger enter 2D, and we'll check if collision dot compare tag, and we are going to compare it to constants dot tags, and it's going to be for our finish tag. Then game manager dot instance dot game over, but before that we are going to set has game finished to true and enable to false, and similarly on trigger exit 2D, if collision dot compare tag constants dot tags dot respawn, then destroy collision dot game object, collision dot transform dot parent dot game object after 1 second. And let's go inside our game manager and we'll start fixing up. Main menu manager is finished. Now inside our game manager, let's create our public static game manager instance. And awake instance is equals to this. Now after our instance, there's going to be serialized field private float spawn pose y, start spawn y, and offset y, and after that serialized field private list of game object, and obstscl, yes, obstacles, spawn offset and in the y direction. And after that we have serialized field text dm pro text, and the first one is going to be for the score text and score text, and finally I score text, and serialized field private game object and panel private integer for the score, and private float for the spawn pose y current. And this should be enough. And now let's go inside our start. And we'll set current spawn pose y is going to be the start spawn y. Score is going to be 0. Score text dot text is going to be two zeros, and panel dot set active is going to be false. And after that, let's create the gameplay. Private void gameplay, and here we are just going to Unity engine. And let's copy the gameplay, and instead of gameplay we'll call it go to menu. So these are going to be the two functions, and after that there's going to be for the game over function. So public void game over, and the first thing we are going to do is end panel dot set active to true. And after that, end score text dot text is going to be score plus score dot toString, and player press dot set int constants dot data dot last score to the score. And after that, let's get the high score, and it's going to be let's get it from our player press dot has key. Bum, bum, but instead of 0, we'll add the score. If it has, then we'll get it. Else, we'll set the current score to be the high score. And afterwards, we'll check if score is greater than high score. Then, player prefs dot set int constants dot data dot best score to the score. And similarly, we'll set the high score text dot text is going to be best plus. We already got the high score, high score, high score, high score. High score is equals to score. And we'll just use the high score dot toString. So that should set up our high score, and that should be it. Now let's set public void spawn obstacle, and it's going to game object temp is going to be obstacles at random dot range from 0 till obstacles dot count, and after that v3 temp pause is going to be temp dot transform dot position, temp pause dot y is going to be current spawn pose y, and we will instantiate the temp at the temp pose at quaternion dot identity, and the current spawn pose y plus is equals to spawn offset y. Increase the score count and set up the score text. Going to be score.toString, and let's add a plus. If score is less than 10, then we'll add a 0, else we'll add nothing. So this should spawn and set up our score. Now whenever this are going to call, so our score respawn is going to call when we are going to respawn. So it's going to be game manager dot instance dot spawn obstacle. It will set up our score, and similarly it's going to be game manager dot instance dot game over. So this one should set up our game over and our obstacles, and there should not be any problems. So let's go inside Unity, and we have our obstacles spawning recurringly. We need to attach the game manager, reset our transform component, and the start spawn y is going to be -30, offset y is going to be -5, and let's add our score text, the end score text, high score text, and the end panel. This one is the end panel, and we have the end score text and the high score text. Now inside our player, so everything's working pretty much fine, and let's go inside our go to menu, which is going to have our game manager, and the function is going to be go to menu, and similarly for the restart it's going to have a restart function, and gameplay, which is our gameplay function, and let's hit play, and we should be able to index out of range must be non-negative and less than. So again, there was a problems. I think I got you. 0 4 4 4. So let's hit play. Play again. So there's a problem with being non-negative and SR planes of image index casted to an integer mathf.floor of mathf.abs. So the maximum should be 0. Debug.log image index. Mm, 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 mm. So let's hit play and let's see if we are getting any problems. Index was out of range. Respawn. I don't know where the problem is. So 0. 133 should be finished. So let's hit play again. And maybe. I gotcha. We don't have any obstacles here, so let's add the obstacles. Okay, so let's go inside game manager and let's add our 5 obstacles. Let's go inside our assets, which is obstacle 1, obstacle 2, obstacle 3, obstacle 4, and finally the obstacle 5. So now there should not be any problems and the game should finish. So the restart was working, and as you can see we are able to move left and right, and we can also go inside our menu. We are able to play the game. So 3 4, let's play again. 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, the speed increased. Instead of negative we need to add the absolute of the speed. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and where we set the current X speed we need to add the absolute of the current X speed, or else if we go inside the negative direction our Y speed will increase instead of decreasing. So that's it. Now the last thing should be remaining is the sound. So let's hit play again, and we should be able to see our game working. So the score is increasing, and okay. It's a little bit difficult. So the high score and the best score are similar. So it's a pretty much difficult game. So as you can see, our fixed update is not working correctly. So let's try to move it inside our late update inside the follow player. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and inside our follow player we'll try to move it inside our late update. So maybe now it will be less jittery, and only our audio manager is remaining. We are just going to use the similar audio. Again, it is too much jittery. I think there may be problem with our physics settings. So let's go inside our project settings, and let's change the time scale, which should be inside the physics. No, it should be inside time. So fixed time skip, let's set it to 0.005, and let's see how it is working right now. So now it is smooth, and let's play again. And let's set up our audio. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and we are going to set up our audio manager, which will need to create a script. So let's create an audio manager script, and we are going to follow along how we created before. So let the Visual Studio attach the script. So this is the audio manager, and inside our audio manager we are going to add everything. So the corrections and generic are not going to be needed, and let's add using Unity Engine dot UI. I don't know why UI will be needed. Mm, Okay, to add the buttons UI was needed. And inside, let's first add the public static audio manager instance. And inside our awake, we'll set the instance to this. And don't destroy unload game object. And if instance is equals to null, then only we'll set instance to this, else we'll destroy the game object. And after that we'll do player prefs dot setInt, constants dot data dot setting sounds to be. We'll need to create that field first. So let's go inside. So let's create a serialize field. Private audio source. And the first one is for the music source. And the next one is for the effect source. And after that, we'll have a serialized field, private audio clip. And it's going to be for the click sound. Oh, private bool is sound muted. And private bool is sound muted. Maybe only one will be necessary. And let's first add our getter. So it's just going to player prefs dot ASCII, and it's going to be constants dot data dot setting sound. Then we'll set the player prefs dot getInt constants dot data dot setting sound, else is going to be 1. And result, and we are going to return if result is 1 is 0. If the result is 0, that means the sound is muted. Now inside our setter, we are going to set the player prefs dot setting constants dot data dot setting sound, and we'll pass the value, and if the value is true then we'll set to 0, else we'll set to 1. So it should set it up. And is sound muted? And if it is muted, then we'll set to 0, else we'll set to 1. And after that, we'll set effect source dot mute is going to be is sound muted. Music source dot mute is going to be sound muted. And if is sound muted, not, if the sound is not muted, then we'll set music set mute. I think it should work. Ah, music source dot play. And after that, we'll add a function to add the button sounds, and let's add a public void play sound, and it's going to pass audio clip, and we'll call it clip, and it's just going to effect source dot play,
and instead of play we'll use play one shot, and we'll pass our clip, and public void toggle sound. We'll set the music source dot mute is equals to sound muted, and effect source dot mute is going to be is effect muted. I mean is sound muted. And the last one is the button sounds. So let's create a function. So public void add button sounds, and it's going to be where buttons is equals to find objects of type, and we'll add our button. And after getting our buttons, we'll also need to add the two. So it also adds the hidden buttons. Now for int I is equals to 0, I less than buttons dot length, buttons of I dot on click dot add listener, and for the listener play sound, and we are going to play the click sound. So that should be it for our audio manager. And whenever the awake function is called, it's going to add our button sounds. Hmm, 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 hmm. Mm, 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 mm. And that should be it. Now inside our game manager, for the start, we'll call audio manager dot instance dot add button sound, and audio manager is fixed, constant is fixed, game manager is also done, and the main menu manager audio manager dot instance dot toggle sound whenever we toggle the sound. And after that, inside our player, whenever both our functions are called, we are going to call the respective sounds. So which is our respawn, we will call audio manager dot instance dot player sound, not player, just play sound. And we are going to play the sound. What sound we are going to play? Coin clip. And let's copy this, and whenever it collides with a finish, we are going to call the explosion clip. So that should be it for the audio. Now let's go inside Unity, and our player should have both its audio clip attached, so that's not any problem here. And debug.log, let's also remove it. And finally inside our main menu scene, let's go inside our main menu, and let's create an audio manager and it's going to have an audio manager component attached. And music source and the effect source will need to create, but we could add our click sound, and let's create an empty and we'll call it music. And here we'll add an audio source component. The audio clip is going to be our street love or whatever you want our audio to be, and we'll set the loop to on and play on awake to off. Now let's duplicate this music and we'll call it effect, and let's set it to none. The size is going a little bit higher. Loop and play on awake both are going to set to be off, and let's rename it to effect. Now if we add our music and our effect source, we should be able to listen to the sound. So let's hit play, and as you can see the sound is working, and if we quit we are able to quit the game. And let's hit play and let's see. Okay, so every sound is working and there is not any problem. So as you can see, we just created a pixel plane game. So it was just another beginner game which you can try it yourself, and the project link is in the description. And if you have any suggestions what I should improve for this video, do comment it below. And similarly, if you have any suggestions for any different types of games or any features, I'll try to add it afterwards, maybe when I create another game. And if you guys watched till now, thank you guys for watching. And if you want to see another different uh, another snakes and ladders or doodle jump and another infinite runner types of games, it will be at the end of the video. I mean, I'll attach the cards or the links. So thank you guys for watching and see you guys in the next video.